Hello everybody again. I got another idea on a nice tutorial for you. No, to be honest, I was lying. It was not my idea. It was an idea BURDA had in July 2011 in one of their BURDA style magazines. Because they say, okay, you might have just made yourself a beautiful dress out of a real nice light material as a chiffon or a satin, but you don't really think any of your jewelry that you have will fit with it. Well, that's why they said, okay, why don't you take all your little bits of leftovers, even from other ones, as long as it's a very, very fine material, and make yourself a nice necklace out of it. And exactly that's what I did from the BURDA idea. And while I was doing it, I thought, well, why should you only make a necklace out of it? You could also make, in the same style, a real nice bracelet out of it. Or, for a nice dress, you could make a real hot little sleeve in that kind of way to make this. Or for your children. Imagine a little girl is going to have sleeves like that in their dress. They're going to love it. So, I will show you now how you can do this lovely item for yourself, and you make it yourself. Here we go. To do this lovely necklace from BURDA, as they suggested some years ago, you need loads of little leftovers of a very fine material. It could be any organza, some chiffon or a satin. Just look, as long as it's really soft and nice to feel, and thin, very thin. And you need some net material, and first of all you start by making yourself a little pattern. This pattern is already much smaller than what BURDA suggested on their particular necklace. I made it much smaller, and I chosen my width approximately on 20 centimeters and the height on about 15 centimeters. And my cut down from the complete height is approximately 5.5–6 centimeters. But this is not necessarily the form that you have to do. You can just as well make a very small one, or you can make a bracelet in this way out of it, or both just as well. Or you can make it bigger. That is all up to you, and maybe it depends on how big your cutout on your dress is. That I would decide on. If my cutout is very big, then this can be huge. Otherwise, if you have a very small cutout on your dress, I wouldn't make it so big. Okay, so that's what you need. And this net material, they suggest to use 3 pieces, which I cut already 3 pieces here. You can't see this, but there are 3. Of course, if your net material is much thicker, then maybe you only need 1 or 2. Then you take your pattern, your template that you made, and you just stitch the 2 or 3 together and cut around it tight. So they're already prepared. Then with your leftover pieces of chiffon, satin, organza, you cut them all in the size of 25 approximately long. They can be slightly longer, and 6 centimeters wide. And on this particular size, I believe to make them really nice and tight, to put on here, I will need 20 to 25 of those pieces approximately. I rather make 1 or 2 more now, and later on I leave one off, or maybe I do a mistake somewhere, then I got 1 left over anyway. So as I say, you need 20 to 25 pieces of this in the lengths of 25 centimeters by 6 centimeters. And I've chosen different colors already. Maybe I want to put a total white one in between, and this pink, because it also goes with the colors that are in this particular chiffon in here. So then, when you got them all cut, as I said, first of all you stitch your net together, cut it out, and then you take the stripes, and I stitch them exactly in half, as you can see here. On the cut open edge, that's the way I'm going to do it, but you can also stitch them there and leave that one open. You see later how this works. And leave on each end, or at least on one end, the threads out long, because you need them first of all for stitching it onto your net and to pull them together. So after you stitch them all together, which I still have to do on all those, you take your pieces here and you start cutting them in. Take some good scissors that you don't need to work in the end of your scissors. Take the scissors so you can really cut in one go your little stripes out there. And do them quite tight. The tighter, the finer you do them, the nicer it will look. You can see the difference on one that I've done here already. I got another one somewhere already. There was the first one I tried, and I think I was a little bit too far away, too big. It can be used, but the finer they are, the nicer they're going to be. So that you got to do all the way to the end of all your stripes. Take your time for it, and then it really will get nice. Now, as I said before, you can also stitch this end, and you have the open edge. Then, which is the effect, it's supposed to be the effect, the material starts running a bit there, and it's going to be really fluffy up here. But I believe I'm going to do them all this way. That's fine for me. And then we're going to pull them together to make these little flowers out of it. Now, BURDA suggested differently. They say, after you've prepared it so far, you take your stripe and roll it up all the way to a real nice fine flower. And while you're rolling it up, you have to put stitches in there to hold it together, otherwise how would it stay that way? Of course, this is the way you can do it, and you can see then it really gets a very even kind of flower there. But I think by just pulling it together, it will be just as nice and just as good, but you can try either way. I'm going to just pull them together like this and stitch them on, but you can, if you wish, do it that way. Just try it out in whatever you like best. So I go on my sewing machine, I gotta stitch all those up, and I'm going to cut them all in. And as soon as I've done that, I will continue with you. Oh yes, and by the way, of course, when you want to wear this necklace, you will need some little satin tape or a cordle, or you can make yourself something to hold it up from the same material, or you can use a very, very fine chain to stitch onto there. You make that decision, but when you have this as an example then as holding the necklace up, then you also have the possibility, if you have one left over or make one extra, you can put one on the overgoing here, or even put another one up that way on one side or on both sides. So that would be nice then if you have a satin tape here like that, a band, that will make it also look very nice. So let me prepare all this and then we continue. So as soon as you've got all your stripes stitched up on one side, you have to cut them all as I mentioned before, and then you should first put your bandage on for closing your necklace. So this is already underneath the flowers you will be putting on. So now there's two ways of doing this, and you must try and find the way which will be the best for you. You take first of all one of your stripes, doesn't matter which one we're taking here now, and you take your thread and slowly pull it in. Do it carefully, bit by bit. And if you left on each end your thread hanging over, you can do half on this side, and then you go over, take the same thread of course, otherwise it will not work, and pull it in from this side until you have it evenly pulled together so that you can recognize your little flower that you want to create. And here you can see the way I've cut it very, very fine. That's the nicest it will be at the end. So in the moment you got this all pulled together, like I've done here already, you put on the leftover thread. On one side you can put some nuts so they don't open up again, and this other side you put a needle in and you start stitching it close to the next one that you got there already. Therefore, as I said, you got to just continue. You can put them very tight or you can leave some space. It all depends on how many flowers you want. And as I didn't curl this, I will have to now stitch into the flower again to be able to pull them nicely together. You must take some time for this. This doesn't happen just so quickly, but you can see now I start pulling it and it comes in position. So I will continue this in a moment on my own until I got it so far, but I'll tell you the other possibility as well. Now there you can see as it's coming on. You can also take your stripe and first of all fasten it in the position where you like to put it. See, I stitched that on already right there. Now you take your thread and you start pulling it together, because now that's held on one end. Also, while I was doing this, I had the idea, if you like to have a different edge on the bottom, as I've just stitched that on the ending, as you can see, I decided we could make the bottom like that. See how nice that would look, and then put the flowers on top of each other. That's also a possibility and would give this part a total different look again. I think I really have to think about that. Or just on half, that could also look nice. What do you think? To show you the first in-between step here, I've just decided that my 3-4 very vague colors here are so nice in this, as I do have a dress to go with this one anyway, that I do not even want to add the white one or the pink one in. I will leave it completely like that, I think. So now you see how I'm going to continue. But I think it's really coming on well. And what I also just thought, if you would have made a total different shape, let's say like a drop going down, that would also just be enough. Look, if that would be your necklace, just a drop going down like a grape, could work. Here is a second in-between stand of how far I got with my job so far. As I told you in the beginning, I cut approximately 25 for this piece to fill it, and I really didn't want it to use them. But suddenly I saw, well, these 25 are not by any far going to be enough for me, so I added some of my white in. After all, I added some pink in, and I'm totally finished with the parts I cut. That means for this size, if you do it as thick as I did it here, of course you can spread it more out. But I think for this special look, as it is in the BURDA magazine, it needs so many in. That means I'm going to cut another 8 here now and finish this part off and show you the result. Alright, in the beginning of my tutorial I told you, as BURDA suggested, to do this particular job by doing it so far that you've stitched the edge together, that you cut it all in, and that then you roll this up carefully and start stitching and start stitching and start stitching. Yes, but then I told you, okay, I'm going to do it different. I'm just going to prepare it the same way. Then I'm going to pull it all together and stitch it by hand on, as I showed you in the beginning. But as I'm used to work in the industrial business, we always had to look for the best, fastest way to finish a product. And that's why I had another idea, in case if you want to do this for many reasons, for presents maybe even, then I got a much faster way for you worked out. So you prepare it the same way, by stitching the edge together, cutting it all in, and you got to have on both of your ends your threads hanging from stitching it together. Now you just put it in position where you would like to have the next one, and as you can see I've done mine very tight, but that's how I want it. So I put it in that position where it should actually go. So just put a couple of stitches in. That's enough, that's held now. So I got them hanging here. Very simple now. I take my pulling thread, pull it all the way to the middle in where I got that stitch done that I just did with my sewing machine, as tight as possible without ripping my thread. And I just put a couple of knots in here, 3 or 4, because I want to make sure it's not going to open up when I wear it or by moving it around. It's got to be firm, that's clear. I clean that off right away. Now I take the other side and do exactly the same. Take one of my threads for pulling, pull it really tight and put 3 or 4 knots on top of it, and that's the part that's on. You can, if you wish now, if you think it's not quite hanging the way you want it to be, you could put another stitch in somewhere, but I don't really think it's necessary, so I'm going to continue and I then definitely show you the finished part. As I've just seen on the video that it's not so perfectly to see what I just showed you, I repeat it once again. You take your prepared little piece here, approximately in the middle, putting it into the position how tight or how loose you would like to fasten onto your net part, and just stitch it on with a couple of stitches right there in the middle. Take it out. Now look for your end bits and take one of your threads, doesn't matter which one, as long as on the other side you will pick the same one, and pull it carefully to approximately the middle there, nice and tight, but don't rip your thread. And now you just put some knots on top. I hope you can see this well, because you can see how nicely this is going to turn out here. Alright, and now we do exactly the same on this side. Slowly, evenly, really tight, pulling it together there, and put some knots on. I know 2 should be enough, but I'm always on the secure side. I rather put 1 knot more on there. And in case if you see that it's not falling tight as it is here, then you could just go in between here with 1 stitch by hand or with a sewing machine and put another stitch right there. Okay, we're not finished yet, but in a moment. So here we are. You see on the picture the one from the BURDA magazine from 7/2011, and on the left side you see the one that I've done. Now, I hope you enjoyed my little video, and maybe you have an idea if you like to make this necklace, a bracelet, or maybe a little sleeve for your daughter or the neighbors, or some presents for somebody. Christmas coming up soon, so you better get started. Wish you so much fun with doing many, many nice little things yourself, and I hope you come around again. Thank you so much. Bye.